Okay, so you've probably wondered how the processor in your phone got so ridiculously fast, right? Well, the answer, and this is the crazy part, doesn't start with a tiny silicon chip. Nope, it starts with a 10-ton monster of a computer built right after World War II. So let's get into it, how a giant's big idea ended up right in your pocket.
So this guy here, this is Ambros Speiser. He's a young engineer, and he's literally peering into the guts of one of the first ever computers. He was just there to learn, But a design principle hidden inside this beast of a machine, yeah, that would go on to shape the very architecture of the phone you're probably holding right now. Of course, technology is never just about the machines, is it? It's always about the people behind them. And this story, at its heart, is really about a brilliant mentor and the super promising young engineer he took under his wing.
Okay, let's set the scene. The year is 1949. A top-tier Swiss university, ETH Zurich, picks one of its absolute brightest, Ambros Speiser, for a really important mission. His destination? Harvard University. And his goal? To learn from the guy, the pioneer of the computer age, Professor Howard Aiken.
So here they are. On the left, that's Howard Aiken, the established leader, the big boss at Harvard's computation lab. And on the right, there's our young engineer, Ambros Speiser, just soaking it all in, trying to understand this incredible machine they were building. And let me tell you, their work together, well, it would have consequences that neither of them could have possibly imagined.
Right, so what was this machine that brought them together? Let's just say it wasn't exactly a laptop. It was basically a room, a really, really heavy room.
Its official name was the Harvard Mark III. Sometimes they called it the ADEC. And this thing was an absolute monster, one of the most powerful computers on the planet at the time, built for the US Navy. But to really get a sense of its scale, you just have to look at the numbers. They're kind of mind-blowing.
First up, the weight. 10 tons. Yeah, you heard that right. That's like 2 full-grown elephants sitting in a room.
And what powered this beast? 5,000 of these delicate, glowing vacuum tubes. Think of them like old-school transistors. And every single one was a potential point of failure. Just imagine debugging that.
And all that hardware? It took up more than 220 square meters of floor space. We're not talking about a big desk. You could literally fit a small house inside this thing's footprint.
And this picture really says it all, doesn't it? This wasn't just a machine you sat at, it was an entire environment you worked inside of, a true behemoth of wires, relays, and magnetic drums. It was finished in 1950 and man, was it ready to change the world.
But here's the thing, its incredible size isn't what we remember it for. No, its real legacy, the truly revolutionary idea, was hidden deep inside its architecture, specifically in how it handled memory.
So what was the big idea? It was this. Unlike pretty much every other computer design at the time, the Mark III didn't just throw everything into one big pile. It had one memory system just for the instructions, the what to do part, and a totally separate one for the data, the what to do it to. Now, this was completely different from the other big idea at the time, the von Neumann architecture. And the easiest way to get it is to think about a chef in a kitchen. The von Neumann chef, they've got one counter for everything, their recipe book and their ingredients. So they have to read a step, put the book down, grab the flour, put the flour down, pick the book back up. It's slow. But the Harvard chef? They're smart. They have 2 counters. One is just for the recipe book, and the other is just for ingredients. They can be reading the next step while they're chopping an onion. See? No traffic jam. It's just way faster, way more efficient. And this diagram basically shows you exactly that. You can see those 2 separate highways flowing into the processor in the middle. One for instructions, one for data. That simple split is the secret sauce. It's the key to that huge performance boost.
Okay, so it was built at Harvard. It had this unique architecture, so naturally they called it the Harvard architecture, right? Seems obvious. Well, this is where the story gets a little weird.
The simple answer? No, not at all. When Ambros Speiser was wrestling with the Mark III, he wasn't muttering to himself, darn this Harvard architecture. Nobody was. That name, it came way, way later. In fact, historians have shown that the term was actually made up decades later, and it came from the world of these tiny little computer chips called microcontrollers. It was only then, much later, that engineers looked back, saw the super elegant design of the old Mark III, and decided to name it after the university. It was a retroactive name.
And that brings us to the last and maybe the most incredible part of this whole story. How on earth did an idea from a 10-ton giant make the jump into the microscopic little chips that run pretty much everything today?
While the idea didn't just get copied and pasted, it evolved. It started with that really strict physical separation in the Mark III. Then, decades later, chip designers got clever. They took that same idea and applied it just to the CPU's super-fast memory, its cache. They gave the cache separate lanes for instructions and data. And that's what we now call a modified Harvard architecture. It's a hybrid that gives you the best of both worlds. You get that Harvard-style speed right where it matters most, right next to the brain of the chip.
So where is this idea living today? Oh man, it's literally everywhere. It's right at the heart of the main processor, the brain, of your laptop and your phone. It's in the special chips that process your music and videos, and it's in billions of those tiny microcontrollers running everything from your car's engine to your smart toaster.
So really, the next time you tap on your phone, just take a second to remember the incredible journey that idea took. It went from a room-sized calculator with 5,000 glowing tubes to a tiny sliver of silicon smaller than your fingernail. The scale is completely different, but that brilliant, simple logic is exactly the same.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? A single design choice from a machine built over 70 years ago is still powering our world every single day. So what are the quiet little ideas, the 10-ton ideas, being built in labs right now that are going to become the invisible architecture of our future?